me and Finn had been away, and we'd planned this trip and had booked a few flights, and it was Iceland and then into a few bases in Canada, and then over to Seattle and basically down the coast and then back home. That was our sort of loop. And yeah, the first stop was Iceland, and we turned up, and as with sort of, I think, is fairly common practice in parkour trips, we just turned up with sleeping bags essentially, and no hotels or anything booked or no accommodation, and figured we'd, you know, find nice cozy spots somewhere, or, you know, that's I think is quite common practice now, which is kind of funny. And we turned up, and I think probably had slightly underestimated the weather, and it was bloody cold. But we'd spent our first night essentially just sleeping in a bush in Iceland, right next to a church. It was cold, there's no getting around it. Like, we had big sleeping bags that kept most of us warm, but I remember my toes just needed an hour in a shopping mall the next morning just to sort of thaw out again. But yeah, so we'd spent this first night pretty sort of miserable, really, and then the following day had made it out to like a gymnastics session just outside of Reykjavik. We'd met a guy there, and we'd said where we'd spent the night before, and he said, "Oh, come and at least sort of stay in my garden. I'll pop a tent up in my garden for you guys." So we went home after the session with him. His name was Aaron, and he at the time lived with his girlfriend Thorndis and her parents, maybe his parents. So that was their sort of family home. We turned up, and Thorndis was starting to get the tent out and stuff, and they were sort of halfway through building this tent, and then they were like, "Actually, let's just put you in the garage." So they had this massive like fold down mattress that just like plonked in the middle of this garage, and me and Finn were there like, after having spent the last night like just freezing, we're then sitting on this like huge like king size mattress in a warm garage. It just felt glorious. And then after that, we'd sort of been upgraded from the tent to the garage. And then the following night, they said, "Actually, do you want to come in the house?" So we'd sort of been slowly worked our way into this like family home, and we'd like had cups of tea with them and had meals with them, and they'd taken us out one evening to find the Northern Lights, and we'd sat in this tiny little, like a man-made pond. Basically, you sit on the rim and your feet are in the water, and the water's really warm, like naturally. It's like, I don't know like what's going on there, sure, like, scientifically, but warm as fuck water, and our feet are just dangling in it, and the Northern Lights are there, and it was just like unbelievable. Like another day or two after that, they'd literally just drove us out in their 4x4, just like the two of them and their dog. I think his name was Pilau, and they were just like taking us to their favourite spots, like up the coast and up into Vic, and they took us to that like airplane and all of this. It was just such an unbelievable like show of kindness to two people that they'd met 2 days prior. Like still when I think about it, it just seems crazy. And as I said at the beginning, it's, you know, it's a parkour trip, and we met at like a gym, you know, doing like a parkour session, but essentially it's nothing to do with parkour. That's just like human kindness. And I think parkour trips are so special for that reason, that you just find yourself in these situations when you're with people you've never met, and there's, I mean, I don't know if it's too bold to say, but I think there's a sort of inherent trust between people that are somewhat in the community, and I don't know exactly why that is, but I think that's a good example of it.